Hoping everyone can hear us loud and clear. Welcome to this webinar, when HR and IT collaborate to find the right digital solution. Hopefully everybody logged in okay, and we'll give it a couple seconds while we introduce ourselves, make sure everybody's on. Please feel free to mention where you guys are joining us from and which organizations, so that we can see our audiences. From my side, I'll introduce myself. So my name is Riyan Silochan. I'm the Managing Director for LRMG Tech, as well as a Senior Partner at LRMG. Been in the industry for about 15 years now, focusing when I started on mobile learning, and then moving all the way into talent management, talent experience platforms, learning experience platforms, across the board technologies. And really excited to be here and to be talking to you about a really prominent and important topic that's come up in the HR and IT and talent space. I shall introduce Yandri Pienaar. So Yandri is an executive HR from Moyo, one of our long-standing clients. And I'll hand over to Yandri to introduce herself a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Riyan. As Riyan mentioned, Yandri Pienaar, I'm the HR executive for Moyo Business Advisory. And we are basically a technology, talent, and consulting firm providing our work is providing skills. That's our service at the end of the day. And I think in that process, in a technology firm, the coming together of HR and technology has been an interesting topic and an interesting journey for us. So looking forward to having the conversation, sharing some lessons learned, and also maybe some of the audience has some lessons learned that they can share.
Thanks so much, Yandri. Yeah, and please, important note you mentioned, please do feel free to pose your questions in the chat. We'll definitely come to some of those towards the end. Looking forward to an interactive session. So please go for it. Now, Yandri and I probably met about 3 years ago, give or take, and started working towards a plan for talent management within Moyo. Now, given that we've had a long-standing partnership, and I'd like to think a collaborative implementation, but before we jump into those things, there's a really key question here around what are the deciding factors when selecting a talent platform for your organization, and I think for any organization, but specifically yours. Would you care to share those with us, please, Yandri?
I think, there are the obvious answers, I suppose, to, what the cost is and, whether it's where the solution would be based and how your support looks and so forth. But from an HR perspective, I think it's so important that you really understand what it is that you specifically need in your organization. There are a lot of talent platforms out there, but the way in which you, do HR is really going to be that driving factor. And while we had advocated for a system for a long time before you and I actually met, we hadn't been quite successful in getting it. But that process of motivating for a system really helped us think about, okay, but what is it? Because I think a lot of times you go to market and you see what's really awesome and everything's flashy and it's great, but do you really know what it is that you need and what's going to be the key factors in deciding that, other than the standard cost, where it's based from, and support type of questions?
Yeah, fantastic. It definitely is something that's prominent across many organizations. Is the technology is required, and you'll hear me talk a little bit about silver bullets and what are we trying to achieve. And I think those deciding factors are certainly pertinent and key when looking at platforms. And there's a plethora of platforms out there. It's really key to look at what fits your organization, is what I hear you say. So thanks for that, Yandri. Now,
yes, and I think
yeah, go for it.
So sorry, I think the other thing is there are various, sizes of technology available out there. So you can get very small, basic HRIS systems, or you can go for, very big, very complicated systems. And again, it's where's your organization at? We all want the latest and greatest. We want to say, yeah, we've got the Ferrari. But do you really need the Ferrari, or will the Toyota do, for instance? I think that's also an important question, and that you can really back that up.
Yeah, 100%. And there's often those terminologies used, actually, Ferrari versus Toyota, but it's about maturity in the organization,
Yes.
and what we're looking for. If it's, I mean, we find organizations that, an Excel on steroids, for lack of a better term, could justify and work.
Yes.
But then in other organizations, we need something more automated, something more digital. But it's all about, kind of meeting you where you're at, essentially.
Yes.
Now, when we're looking at platforms and technology, there's always a justifying a TXP, and many organizations struggle to justify going talent experience platform, HRIS platform, talent management system, interchangeable terminology. How did you manage to build a business case for investment in an HR talent platform?
As I mentioned initially, actually, we failed in it. It was a 6-year journey before we actually got the go ahead to implement. And it started off with, oh wow, there's this thing called an HRIS, and it sounds really awesome, and I want it. And as I said, well, that's not a motivation. So as I motivated, I actually learned, what are the questions that business is asking? How is this going to support business? How's it going to enable business, enable our employees? And I think you need to put measurable things to it. So for us, a big motivation was, first of all, to support our business strategy, which, being a technology organization, we wanted to mature and digitize HR as well. We work a lot with data. We do that for ourselves internally, and we want to come on board. And given we're a talent organization, that data is so important to enable the rest of the business in decision making. And that was definitely, I think, a strong driver. And then the other thing also is that we were on a strong drive across our organization to drive efficiency. And I read recently that someone said, systems and things like AI and so forth is actually just a method of reducing the time between data and action. And that, to me, was efficiency, is to reduce that time when we need to make certain talent decisions that's going to influence our services and actually the business externally to our clients. We needed to reduce that time to provide accurate data, accurate information at a faster pace so that we can get to making the decisions and taking the actions. So by the time we got to the point where we learned the lessons of how to motivate the business case, the HR strategy, the business strategy was actually also well aligned in driving efficiency, driving talent, and we could lock into and slot into how could the system enable not only HR, but the rest of the business in that sense.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it actually closely aligns, and something that I found was very interesting when we saw your success or case study on implementing the platform was we kind of started to look at not just implementing a technology for the sake of a technology, but what are we looking at as success measures? And we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But something that we found, and I don't think it's something we invented, but maybe we'll take that. But we looked at a couple of measures such as, is it going to save me time? Is it going to save me money? Is it going to enhance my brand? Is it going to enhance my status, ignite my people, reduce my risk? So just some of those things, and those are great, I suppose, success measures, but also cases for to put forward in the business case. And when we started to link that through, and it's something that us in the HR and talent field have long struggled to connect to, where we say, how do we justify an onboarding platform in the case of reducing time to productivity? How can we link it to actual bottom line impacts, not just qualitative but quantitative measures that a CEO and an exco can look at and say, I get it, I can see the ROI on a platform. And I think that's the key differentiator for us that we've seen when working with clients.
Absolutely. And I think it's, again, there are many metrics that one can use, but what's relevant to your business? simple example, it's not HRIS, but when recently interviewing HR managers for one of our clients, if I ask about metrics, everyone tends to throw absenteeism in there. And if you're sitting with an organization of 20 people where sick leave is absolutely, or absenteeism isn't an issue, why are you going to measure it on a monthly basis? So it's really what is relevant to that business and where's your business strategy going. The more you can slot into that or link whatever metric would support that, the easier that will be. As you say, then your CEO, your CFO can actually see the benefits. And if you can even go further and give them the rand and cent return of investment, you'll get there.
Absolutely. I think that's almost the keys to unlocking that budget, if there's a better, not a better way to say that. You actually mentioned something so interesting. We to the point of, you know, right time, right space, right client, right technology. We had a client a couple of years ago, and it stuck with me because their onboarding was costing them in paper 200,000 rand a month. And that justification was already on its own a business case. But in a lot of organizations, that's long not been something that they consider, you know, a huge expenditure. But in this case, that alone could justify a business case. So it's really right place, right time. Now, HR's long had a disconnect with IT. And, you know, sometimes even debating where does an HR technology, because it is HR, but it's also technology. So where does something like an HRIS, a TXP, a talent management, where should its home be? And how did you get your HR team to really talk tech or talk IT?
It's I think it's a highly debated question, and I think about around the same time that we started the implementation, I had a conversation with an old colleague of mine, and we were talking about digital transformation and how all of a sudden there was talk that it's something that should sit with HR and not technology. And, you know, we had that debate. And I think it's not the one or the other. It has to be a joint partnership. Having said that, at the end of the day, your HRIS or talent system platform, whatever you want to call it, is something that HR uses, and it's HR data, it's people data, it's a people system. If you do not take ownership of that, what do you expect someone else to do? Yes, the technology enables it, but it's so important that we as a department, and even to the extent that I think the person advocating for the system should really be the front and center owner of that and take that ownership, work very closely. But at the end of the day, the accountability for me should really lie there, because at the end of the day, it's a technology that's enabling certain things, but we are still inputting the information there from an HR perspective. So you have to become more tech savvy to have that partnership and conversation with your IT department. But I think definitely if you're going to hand it over to your IT department and say, you guys need to manage this, you guys need to own this, I don't think you'll have the best implementation and the best use of that system at the end of the day. In terms of being able to talk the tech language, we've been fortunate as a team that we work in a technology organization. So just through basic exposure to sitting in interviews, sitting in meetings where they are talking about, you know, all this tech stuff that either we're doing for our clients or within our organization, you already start picking up the language. So I think but I mean, you need to listen and actually pay attention. And then, you sit there and you make notes and you start Googling, what's this, what's that, you know, what's this talk, especially when it comes to the jargon and the abbreviations that they tend to use. So that was definitely, I think we had a head start in that. We've been in this organization. Myself, I've been here for 12 years. My HR officer that assisted with implementation had been here for 6 years. So we knew the language quite well. But what's interesting is you find more and more courses, even online courses or programs, or if you just go and Google about HR basic, can I say, data or technology fundamentals for HRs. And that's really just something that you can reach out to, just to understand what this basic talk is. I think also, spending some time with your IT department before you even start the conversation, just spend some time with them and listen to the words that they are using. And as I said, make notes, go and Google it, learn what they are talking about, even though you won't be able to, some people might get to the point where they can actually do the SQL code themselves. I'm sure there are very ambitious people like that. But if you can just in essence understand what these things are about, it definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Yandri. That's fantastic. And we put a poll up there, and thanks all for the vote. So we got a resounding 84% saying that
Right.
the talent and talent platform and implementation thereof should sit within the HR space. The rest were around 6% for IT, 6% for ops, and then a 4% for other. Now, that is, I think that's a vast change, and I think it does depend organization to organization. But it's fantastic to see that the ownership of that is certainly lying with HR. The intention is to lie with HR. And I think what you've said there very importantly is that we've got to understand what the technology can do technically, as well as what it can deliver on from an HR perspective to the business. And if we look at it, everyone's talking ChatGPT and AI and all of these things. And when we look at how much closer it's coming to the HR space and not just being tech speak or IT speak, if we look at things like predictive analytics, I mean, we've been able to predict successes, in an organization based on things like skill sets, based on competencies, based on performance, based on closest job fit or profile fit. And that historically is always quite a large task to do. But now we've opened ourselves up to a far bigger audience where we're able to actually look at, what should a person in a position of HR generalist be learning? What skills should they have? So we're able to also not just benchmark ourselves against, our internal businesses, but against global businesses. So we've kind of brought ourselves to the next level. Even in recruitment, we've got AI that can screen out applicants now. And you can just imagine the saving of time when it comes to artificial intelligence helping you do those things.
Absolutely. I mean, it's fascinating to see how the world of HR has actually changed. I learned a couple of years back when I was doing my master's at UCT that they were thinking of bringing in Python coding, which is, one of the things used for AI, as a first-year subject for HRs. I mean, it was mind-blowing for me to think that, HR should be learning tech coding, but it's absolutely where it's going. And I think together with this whole notion of automation and AI and all the time that can be saved, I think you do get a little bit worried of, okay, but how's that going to affect me? And how's that going to affect my job and my department? Everyone's worried that robots are going to replace us. But the fascinating thing is that from that, new jobs arise. Whereas now I look at HR jobs out there and all of a sudden you get, what did I see the other day? HR data manager or HR analytics manager. These things are sprouting from actually, let's replace the mundane work and give that to technology, and let's focus on where we can really actually make a difference and contribute to an organization.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think, to the point of a lot of people being worried about becoming redundant, I suppose.
Yes.
I think there's a major opportunity for us to relook at what HR does in an organization, and to remove it from being transactional, or at least limited from being transactional to being far more strategic in working with business partners within the organization. I think that's the intent. I mean, it's still a real case where we've got, HR execs physically stamping or stamping is the word I'd use, leave forms and approving performance reviews physically. And I mean, there's a lot more that HR can do than just be, the transactional, getting through the day-to-day tasks such as lead management, which should be a non-event, to be honest.
Yes.
Now,
more value to the organization. And I think also for us as HR professionals, it's more value to our careers. It's boring to be stamping and signing stuff every day. So it's to me very exciting that there's a change in that sort of career trajectory almost, that we can go different routes and we can get away from the mundane day-to-day admin. It's more value for us as individuals, I think, and of course, more value for the organization.
Absolutely. So now that you're up and running, and you've met the Exco challenge, which there was an Exco challenge of implement in 6 months. So part of your business case is put forward. They went, great, like it, but get it done in 6 months. Now that you've gotten there, how have things been going since the implementation?
So I would definitely not go back to pre-implementation. I am so thankful that we put in a system. I'm so happy that it's not 1,000 spreadsheets, and it's so much easier just to give answers. A simple thing like asking for an employee address is all of a sudden at the tip of our fingers. So that's been really wonderful. Because we had such a limited time to implement, and it was also during the busiest time of our year, we really decided to go in with a, vanilla implementation. So let's get the basics in. We can always enhance from there, but let's just get the basics in. And that's really where we've been in the past year since we've implemented, is also now getting to know the system as the HRs, as the admins using the system, for our employees to get to know it, for our managers working with it. So the entire organization had to now start using it, learning it, getting comfortable with it, and then identify from a user experience perspective, what are things that we need to look at and change. From an HR and an admin side, we've noticed the power and the strength that lies in the system that we aren't utilizing yet. There's so much. I think we didn't even go with one of the biggest systems out there, but there's so much functionality, there's so much richness in it. And as I said, we just said, let's get something in, let's get the basics, but now let's start exploring how we can further move this forward, further use the system to enable us, not only in HR, but in the other areas of the business. So we are really in a, discovery phase still of discovering from different angles and different user perspectives what can be enhanced, what can be better, what's, as I say, just basic functionality and user experience, and trying to pull that together to say, okay, let's sort of, I want to say phase 2, but let's look at how we now actually move forward with this system. And I'm happy that we did it. We didn't have a perfect system or a perfect implementation where, the moment the system was in, everything was just perfect. And all of a sudden, we could just draw insights and everything's working. It wasn't that. To get there, I think would have taken forever. And I don't think you ever can get to that perfect state. So I'm happy that, we chose to go in with a minimal viable product, go in, get it done. And then from there, I think you actually better learn how you can enhance by actually using it day to day, rather than, seeing bits and pieces before you start implementing.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely ideal. I think, in a lot of cases, we see organizations bite off more than they can chew. In trying to implement everything at once, multiple modules. And, it's not about the implementation partner per se, because, you could have an endless list of consultants and implementation consultants they could support on this, but it's about what's the appetite for the organization, for the team internally. I mean, I think it was just the 3 of you when you started the implementation, if I'm not wrong, on your side. Yeah.
Yes.
So for three individuals to implement, hire to retire, recruitment, onboarding, learning, performance, succession, and then never mind reporting simultaneously is just, I think it's a task that not many people can achieve. So a phased implementation, an MVP, and I think, having a platform that is agile and essentially evolving with you is really
Yes.
what's key, is that at any given point you can switch on new functionality as the business is mature enough. Sometimes less is more, especially when launching. And maybe just a comment on change management. How do we get adoption going?
I think that's definitely another lesson that we learned. We did very well during implementation, and I want to say in the initial first couple of months afterwards, that we built a lot of excitement within business, within our management team, and amongst our employees. We have an amazing marketing and communication team that really helped us in driving that excitement so that people wanted to jump on board. And again, we're a technology firm. People like tech, so they were actually keen on embracing it. I think we as HR was more averse to new technology than they were. And I think the other thing is also during the time when we went live, it was also during certain cycles in the year where we were doing performance reviews, where we were doing increases and bonuses, and making use of a lot of the aspects of the system. But as soon as we were through that and done with that, we definitely saw a bit of a downtake in the usage, where people initially was there every day. All of a sudden now it's once a week. And looking back now, as soon as we implemented, and we had initially with post-implementation for the first couple of months, these online walk-in support centers where you could come and ask questions about the system and we'll help you. We put in a lot of it, and then we just stopped because, the uptake was good and everyone's using it. So we're good, let's move on. Yeah, I think maybe it's not something that should have had an immediate stop, maybe again a phased downward approach to that. But we should always also take into account the cycles of HR. And that's still something that we discussing as a team is, is it wrong that people, if I'm sitting on an employee side, is it wrong that I'm only using the system once a week? Because there's no need for me to every day log in and do something there. We had a lot of usage, but it was during, as I said, a period of the year where the organization was going through cycles and processes that the system enabled. So you have to also, can I say, be kind to yourself and not just say, listen, we dropped it. It is different cycles. But on the other hand, I think it's important to reiterate, if I can say that, or remind people of what was done and what's there and what the functionality is, because it's a new plaything. Everyone plays with it and then they put it away. And I think part of now the enhancement is to say, okay, yeah, it's all the same toy that you had, but look, it's got this new little thing to it, and people want to engage with it again. So I think from a change management perspective, don't forget to just, continue that drive. You don't have to do it as hard and as much as initially and during and post implementation, but don't just drop it and leave it there. Make sure that you still continue building awareness.
Amazing. I think those are great lessons there in terms of a change plan and a consistent one. Because I do think, we tend to think everyone's going to love the system as much as we love it from an HR perspective. We know why we've purchased the system. We know why we've implemented it. But, there's always the WIIF and what's in it for me. And we've got to continuously bring people to the platform. And there's always the carrot and stick approach. And there's certain ways to go about that. But it's all about the right organization and what culture is there, and what culture do you want to create within the business?
Yes. I saw a video, I think it was a Simon Sinek thing probably a while back, about change management, and especially with technology, how they were saying to, categorize your employees within the technology adoption spaces. So you get people that, if the new Apple is coming out tomorrow, they're camping there tonight. They don't even know what it is, why they need it, but they want to have it. And those are going to be your early adopters. They'll be there, they'll take it on, they won't even ask questions. And then the next group and the next group, and how it sort of phases out. But initially, and especially in the world that we live in today, most people are actually quite keen. And you sit with, so let's say half the organization that's, keen, let's adopt this, and then another half that's sort of your late adopters and don't want to. And they were saying, don't focus too much on the late adopters. Focus on the guys that are really keen, because they will help you build that change to flow out to the rest of the organization. So I think that's also important to keep in mind when you are implementing and you don't have 100% uptake immediately. That's okay. Focus on the group that is going to help you drive and build momentum for your uptake and help you build and drive that change.
Agreed. And, I think we are sometimes hard on ourselves, implementing a system and expecting everyone to love it as much as we do, expecting everyone to use it as much as we think they should. And I think you're right. Let's not be hard on ourselves and understand what are they using it for, and is it of use to them? So we've put it in their hands. What can they get out of it?
Yes.
Now, reverting back to the saying, and I love this saying of yours, HR success is not measured in what HR does, but what it enables business to do. How do you feel the talent platform enables key business levers within your business?
So I have to say that this is not my saying. It's actually, I think, Dave Ulrich that I saw it a while back, and I thought it's a wonderful saying for, I think, where HR's mindsets have to be today and where we should be going. In enabling the business, for us, if I take the biggest portion of our organization is a technology consulting, which really is about people and skills. In order to bring the right team on board for whatever project we get and have to deliver for our clients, we need to know what the skills are for those people. At the same time, we need to know what skills do we need in general, and we need to find those skills in the market. So it really has been a lot around talent management and enabling the business to know at any given time, this is your skills pool. We've built competency models in our system. We can rate people against that. They can actually now go and search, type in whatever technology or skill it is that we need to implement with a client. They can go and type that in and search, and the system tells you, here's Yandri, here's Riyan, this is the level of that skill that they have. And that's helped, again, shorten the time from data to action and decision. They can make informed decisions. They don't have to wonder, is this person going to be able to do this? They know exactly. It also informs us as a group. We can see where the market is going in terms of skills. What do we need? Again, I can look at what is my current skills landscape looking like. I think that's something that honestly I couldn't have answered before. It would have taken me hours to get to a bit of a view to understand what skills we have. Now, again, with a click of a button, we can actually see where our skills are at. We can understand our skills landscape, and with the input from business, understand what's needed, where are the gaps. And in order to fill those gaps, have a proper action and control over it to say, these are the development plans, again, within the system. This is the development plan. This is the timeline to it. So we are building towards a place where we can tell business, if you need 5 data engineers by then, we can deliver it for you. This is how we're going to do it. And then the last portion on recruitment, constantly looking for skills at any given time. I was wondering, how are we doing? Are we finding the people? How many applications do we have, and so forth? Now, literally, again, click of a button, I log in. On my landing page, I have a view of all the positions, requisitions that are open. I know how many applications we have. I know where they are in the process. So I have a very, very clear view on what our talent pipeline looks like. And again, can advise business and say, we have 3 people most likely starting, then line up the projects that they can work on. So it's definitely, I think, helping to drive efficiency, helping to give insights, and really just make it easier and faster, rather than it having to be an hour's Excel exercise to get to the answer.
I can tell you, in 15 years of doing this, every day I learn something new, and everything you've just said there is amazing. There's such key points that you pick up on, where we call them little hires, where the original hire was something of let's get our talent data in one place. But then what comes out of that is reduced time to appointing someone. And I saw some of the stats around your time to appointing, and it's just unbelievable. And again, what I love to do, quantify that. What does that mean in terms of how much we're saving, how quickly we're getting people on board, how quickly they're performing, and how long they stick around? Those are measures that we want to have for people. Now, to the point of our people, and I love that you've gone the route of the business side of things, but talent initiatives are around employees. And I heard a saying, and I'll steal a saying as well, and I can't give credit where it's due because I can't remember where I heard it, but it was something along the lines of, it's the employee's talent. So who are we to not let them have a say in how we and they use their talent? And it was a fundamental change, because I think historically we've always looked at it as we're organizations that people will want to work for. People are going to apply, we'll find the talent.
Yes.
With the proverbial war for talent right now, we've got to look at how do we attract and retain the greatest talent, because that's what's going to help us achieve our business goals. Now, to that point, you've told us how it supports the business. How does the talent platform enable your employees from their perspective? What are they feeling and experiencing that's different? And just before you answer that, we've got a poll up, and it'd be great if you guys could give us some of your feedback in that. Thanks. Go for it, Yandri.
For our employees, I think the key was visibility and almost a sense of control over my profile within the organization, who I am within the organization, goals, and all of these things. If I, for instance, take something like performance management, we were in a space where it was still paper-based. So it was an Excel form that was filled in by the employee and the manager. And first of all, it's, you set the goals and it gets put into a drawer somewhere, and both manager and employee forget about it. It's not visible. They don't see it. They're not reminded of it. And by the time it comes for review, you pull it out, dust it off, and there we go. And it was very much, can I say, driven by process and by HR, where the manager and definitely the employee, I think, they weren't really in the driving seat, and they didn't have visibility of these things truly. Everything just goes into an HR file somewhere. Whereas now, as an employee, if they log in, there's also, again, this beautiful snapshot page where they can see, these are my goals. They're reminded of it. It's visible. They can see progress on it. So it's not just a chat that's hanging in the air with a manager, but they can actually measure progress and see that they're making progress. When it comes to their development plans, your plan is set in the system for the year, and as you complete it, the system tracks it and says what's your completion rate to that. So all of these things are allowing our employees to actually see progress, to have visibility. And as I said, I think it creates a sense of, I'm in the driving seat. They can even, when setting goals, either the manager or the employee can go and select the goals, so they can actually literally navigate the system themselves, select goals themselves, they can provide the input to that. And I think for employees these days, we want to feel more in control of our journey at work. You want to feel like, where you lose control in so many areas of your life, with change and everything happening, you want to feel like there's something that, I have a say in this, or I can control this to an extent. So just having that, I think, is very important. And one of the things that we are currently working on building out, so that the functionality is there, and again, went in vanilla, but we're driving towards building out each and every role in the organization with career paths, with competency models and so forth, so that an employee can really go in and see exactly, these are my options in terms of career path. This is what my future can look like. Immediately, the system will screen their profiles against whatever position they might be interested in 10 years from now, and it will tell them, these are the gaps that you have, this is what you need to do to get there. So it's really, again, enabling the employees to drive their own careers, and take control and be in the driver's seat, which is, it helps drive engagement. And as I said, I think a feeling of, I'm in control and I can do something here, and the information is available. I don't have to go and ask someone for the information. Employees don't like to ask questions. I think as much as they have questions, they don't always come forward and ask or feel that they can. And this allows them to have the information at their fingertips without having to find out, where am I going to get the information.
100%. And so we've just had the poll done. So the question was, do you know where talent data lies? And, it's a kind of a 20% says inner system. HRIS is the other one, which is 34%. And then 6% physical files in a cabinet somewhere, 24% across a bunch of spreadsheets. And then the last one is, we have talent data, ? And that's 16%. So still quite a mix there. And you can see we're moving somewhere. But just your comment on that?
I just want to say, to those bottom, physical files everywhere, spreadsheets everywhere. Do we have talent data? I was exactly there. Please don't feel lost. Don't feel like it's just you. I think sometimes it's wonderful to hear it's not just me. That's exactly where we were. It was physical files. It was spreadsheets everywhere. And honestly, again, we didn't really understand that we had data that could enable the business. We didn't realize that. So yeah, it's to those people, really don't worry about it. We've all been there.
Agreed. Whenever I go to clients and we have a conversation, the question I always ask is, and I'm going to use yourself as an example here, is if we were to look at Yandri and where Yandri could go in the organization, how would we know that? And the common answer is, well, it's subjective. Her line manager may have mentioned her in a talent conference, or, something along those lines. And then I always say, well, do you know Yandri now, as of today? Or do you know Yandri when she joined the organization 6, 10, 15 years ago? And is that just the CV data that you know? So we're measuring Yandri's talent based on when she applied and when she joined. And I think it's a common thing across many organizations. And we shouldn't feel that we've not achieved anything. I think there's always an opportunity to improve that. But exactly what you said, talent knowing where they can move to has a counter positive outcome for the business, in that we know where talent wants to go to. And that is a very, very key thing, because saying Yandri wants to be the next CEO, do we know if Yandri wants to be the next CEO? We don't, unless Yandri says, I would like to, and mentions it as an interest, and then start to work towards that in terms of development plans, etc. If we're able to do that, we know the age-old adage that it costs 7 times more to recruit externally than internally. And we still find so many organizations recruiting externally because it's the go-to. We don't know where our people sit. We don't know, unless you come and pipe up and say, I saw an ad externally, I want to apply for it. We're missing all of those. We should be able to proactively gauge our talent and plan for them.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, the people doing that talent planning and probably doing the succession planning is, HR. in an organization, I mean, when I joined Moyo 12 years ago, we were 19 people. I knew each and every person personally. I saw them every day. And, the data back then was literally in here. And it's fine, you can manage it like that. But as the organization grows, HR cannot know each and every person, their likes, their dislikes, their career plans, their skills, all of these things. Yet we are the people that now need to set these succession plans and determine who's going to go where. How are we going to do that without having the insights, without having the data? For a long time, I thought we have to stay close to the people. And as much as, yes, we still have to try and stay close, it's just not humanly possible when you get to hundreds. And I mean, some of the organizations joining today might be thousands of employees. It's not possible. You need to be able to draw these insights from somewhere. And as HR then makes plans, those plans again need to be trickled through the organization. People need to be informed of it. And what a system allows you to do is basically bring all of that together. All the stakeholders that cannot sit around a table and discuss it, the system allows us to, in a way, almost discuss and align with one another as HR, as the line manager, as the employee.
Agreed. And I think there's something great that you mentioned there, and something from the comments in the chat. One of the participants, sorry, I don't have your name in front of me, mentioned the 24% spreadsheet comes from completed skills matrix. But even having this data ready somewhere doesn't mean it's going to be utilized. And it's exactly what you said. Thinking we have talent data versus what can we do with it? How do we connect the dots with the talent data we have? And I think, that's kind of the fundamental reason for talent experience platforms or TXPs or talent systems, is actually joining the dots from recruitment to onboarding to learning to performance, creating that one value chain, not just for an employee, because that's fantastic. We do want, employees are looking for more and more every day. But besides that, for us as HR and talent managers, to be able to look at what does a life cycle look like and how can we plan better for talent in, the growth of our business overall.
Absolutely. And it's, as I mentioned earlier on, the whole idea of enabling the business. In most of our organizations, somewhere another department has a need for some sort of employee information to drive their business levers. As I mentioned, we were on a very strong drive at the time to digitally transform and really start making use of the amazing data and BI dashboard solutions that we built for our clients to bring that within our organization. So each and every department identified what their business levers are and started pulling data to inform them of where their business levers are at. And again, given we are a people organization, that employee data is so important. So yes, we are connecting and pulling some of the basic information, but I think really one of the things also now in enhancing going forward is not only enhancing our HRIS, but the entire architecture of the organization. So having all our different systems speak to one another. We have a project system, where we manage all of our different client projects. Having that, how can we connect that with our HRIS? And if you bring that data together, what insights are you going to get then? What value are you going to get then? So it's very much, yes, your HR portion from hire to retire, but it can link to so many other things, inform other areas of the business, and vice versa. I think if we can draw from other systems into ours, I mean, the insights and the dashboards, and as you spoke about predictive analytics, I think it's very exciting. It's endless what you can do with that. But you need to you need to start somewhere. The first place is get your data into one space. So again, really don't. I think if I had to think about getting to that extreme place from the start, it would have freaked me out. If you take it bite by bite, you also, it helps with implementation, it helps get things done, but it helps calm the nerves. But you also, again, along the way, learn of how much more you can actually get from it.
Agreed. That elephant, when you're looking at it, seems like an impossible thing to eat until you take
Yeah.
that first bite. And we call it, I mean, sometimes we call it low-hanging fruit, but where's the burning pain points that we can, easily solve for and show value and impact? And it's something we talk about a lot. We've got a couple of audience questions that I'm going to come to in a second, but I do want to ask one more before we get there, and then we'll have a poll. So we often see tech as a silver bullet, and we mentioned it. You think that this is going to come in and solve every problem you've ever had, and life's going to be easy. It's very rarely a silver bullet on its own. Was the system the answer to all your problems?
No, no, it wasn't the silver bullet. Garbage in, garbage out. I think that's the biggest lesson that we've learned. The system at the end of the day is still people feeding into it and then people pulling info out of it. So if you are not inputting the right things, you're not going to get the right things out. What the system does is it centralizes everything. It automates, it helps with efficiency, it creates visibility, all of these things. But the system cannot on its own solve the problem. If there's a business problem, it will provide input into it. It will help us understand the problem. It's not necessarily only going to solve the problem. So it's definitely not a silver bullet. If I look at problems like, we didn't know what was going on in our recruitment, yes, the system definitely helped solve it. But again, it's based on, still, we need to actually use the system. We need to actually go into the system and review the CVs and move it along. We need our managers to go and leave comments after an interview. So there's still human input required. So if you just have a system, it's not going to solve your problems. If you just have the people, it's going to take how long? But if you bring the two together, that's really, I think, where the silver bullet lies.
Fantastic. So we've got a poll that we've just put up. So the question is, do you really need a talent platform? And do you really need a platform, or do you think it's a nice to have? And I'll be keen to hear everybody's thoughts, because a lot of organizations can get by in a manual process for now, but I think with growth comes the efficiencies you can gain, from going technology, but again, choosing the right technology. Now, we've got a couple of audience questions, Yandri, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So let's pick the hardest one. So how does the HR function manage the challenges that arise when new technologies automate simple tasks, leading to a need to retrain employees for more complex jobs that may be beyond their current capabilities?
Let me just rephrase that. So how does HR assist in that digital transformation retraining, essentially? Again, as I mentioned, in our world, having our system in place, we know what the competencies and the skills are that we require and what our people have. The skills required, we actually evaluate every single year and go and have a look at what's new, what's coming. I have yet to see where a skill or a job became redundant just suddenly overnight. It happens over time. And it's so important. Again, that's where the system is going to give you the information of where your employees are at. But you really have to understand what's happening out there in the market and keep with it. It's not a once-off, what are our skills, let's retrain. It's a continuous process to understand so that you continuously align. I mean, if you had to retrain an employee from one day to the next, I think you're going to have a lot of challenges. But if you know where the world is going, where your organization is going, you can do that in a more systematic, developmental way over time, rather than it happening instantly. And having to retrain employees, I think that's, again, as I said, with digital transformation, yes, there's a lot of jobs falling away, but there's a lot of new, really awesome jobs coming along. And this is where we need to understand what our employees, where do they want to go? Some jobs might be very challenging. Some people want to go into data science and they want to build these bots that's replacing us. That's really challenging. That's a lot of skill and things that you require to get there. But again, what's the trajectory? How long is that going to take? When do we see this realizing? We need to look into the future and determine if we see this realizing within the next 3 years, let's start doing it now. Don't wait until then. I hope that
Agreed.
Question.
Absolutely. And look, I think to add to that, and I think it's a fantastic response. You know, we've got, sorry, just before we go there, we've got, do we really need a talent platform? The 30% says, yes, we need and use ours extensively. 3% say, no, it's a nice to have. And 67%, yes, we need a talent platform, but looking for the right fit. So I mean, that just tells us that we've got a 30% saying we've got it and we use it extensively, but still a majority saying we need to find the right fit. And you know, there was a movement many years back, you know, from a perspective of talent systems saying go for best in class in each of the functions. And I talk recruitment, onboarding. So buy each one and get it to integrate together. Lots of organizations went that route, and often, more often than not, they don't really talk to each other effectively enough to make, and you don't have a one central place that can look at everything. And I think that's where the key talent experience platforms can even overlay over all of those things that you've invested in and allow for you to really take that data to the next level, but also providing a user experience that is unified. Because the key thing is, if you're logging into 5 different systems for 5 different parts, for learning, for performance, for your recruitment, and then for leave, and the employee experience is not one that somebody wants to come back to. They're looking at it and doing it almost out of grudge. And that's what we've seen quite often.
You need to, yeah, I think maybe for the people looking for the right fit, reflecting back and just some lessons learned and maybe advice from my side is you first have to start with HR. What do we need? And you need to know what's negotiable and what's non-negotiable. And there you need to be flexible. You are not, I'll be dead honest, unless you custom develop, you're not going to find a system that's going to be exactly perfect for your organization. So you need to really, to that level, understand what has to operate exactly like this. So it's not just what we need, but what's your process? You know, have you really mapped out your onboarding process, for instance? And do you know within the steps of onboarding, what is, you know, if this has to be done another way, it's fine. And what it cannot be done another way, it has to happen this way. You need to be clear on that. You have to talk to your IT department and understand what your enterprise architecture looks like, what your system landscape looks like, and what's possible from that perspective as well. What's going to be needed from that perspective. And then really take the time to choose the right system. Don't be hasty in it. You know, we see a lot with our clients, they buy technology, it's a lot of money, you know, it's a big investment for any organization. And then it's sort of everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon. Everyone's now going this or that technology. Let's jump on the bandwagon. There we go. And you put in so much money, and then when they find out, oh, but this isn't actually right, or this isn't as usable, or whatever it might be, you can't replace it. You're stuck with that technology because the business invested so much money into it. They won't just let you replace it. So know that whatever you choose, most likely you're going to sit with for a long time. So don't be hasty that we have to choose within a month. You know, it took us a year. We were looking and deciding and thinking about what's going to be ideal, different demos, etc., for a year. And what's a year when it comes to probably at least 20 years that you're going to be using this system for most organizations? There's a lot of investment going into it. So take that time. And I think also what's very important for us is scalability and the customizability of the technology. Is the technology staying up to date? So that business, actually for us, it was Cornerstone. Are they up to date and staying up to date with the latest developments in HR and enhancing the system with that. And then how scalable is the system? Can we enhance going forward? Can we change going forward? Because again, that's going to help you when you realize, oh, okay, this isn't working exactly, but we can panel beat this a little bit within the system. We don't have to go out and replace it. So that's really key things that I've just learned in my organization. The type of projects that we do is there's a lot of money going into tech, and business is not your business. Your CEO and your CFO are not in the movie to replace every couple of years. So really take the time, have a look around, get all the information, include your IT department. Don't go on this journey alone, and find something that's going to work for your organization and that can grow and flex with your organization.
Yandri, on that note, it's been fantastic, and I had a ton more questions, and maybe we could do a 2-part series on this, but it's been fantastic to have you, and thank you so much for your time. It really has been immensely valuable for myself, but I'm sure for everybody else. There's a couple of questions here that I think we can respond to, perhaps now if we've got a minute or so. Yes. But there is a question around, can we see a demo? I mean, please do reach out to us. We're happy to support you on showing you the system, and we gladly do that. There's 2 more questions here, and you'll see a QR code come up on the screen. Please feel free to scan that and complete the survey, but you'll also get a thank you email for joining the webinar after this. So we've got one here that says, how can systems be used to get good talent? Sometimes good talent is missed in the process of recruitment, yet they have the right technical skills.
So for us, I think you get CVs in, and HR is screening your CVs. And let's be honest, HR doesn't know what technical skills, and even, a technical skill written on a CV is just that. It's written on a CV. Does the person really have that, and how good are they really at it? So in that sense, it might not necessarily be your HR system, but it's having technical screening, again, having the competencies, build in questions or case studies or reviews that can actually help with that. For us, it's really about finding the right person and teaching them the technical side. And I think that's sometimes what we miss more, is that we find people with the great technical skills, but we missed the actual, is this person going to fit in, the attitude, etc. So either way, within your system, you can, well, depending on what system you get, but definitely for us, we were able to build in those competencies, understand what this person needs to look like, and enhancing with some external systems for skills assessments, we've been able to actually sort of reorder our recruitment process, where it's not just HR screening it and then asking a manager to screen the CV and would they like to interview, but let's actually do some assessments on skills, on attitude, all of these things prior to shortlisting the CVs. And there are really great tools out there, even free online tools for technical skills assessments that can help with that.
Awesome. We've definitely come to the end of the session. And Leola, I see your question. Junior, I see your follow-up question to a previous one. If you don't mind, we'll reach out and we can have a chat offline, if that's okay. But thank you to everybody for joining in the conversation. Thank you, Yandri, for being willing to be put on the spot. And hopefully it wasn't too much of a grilling. But maybe we'll look forward to a second part. Let's see what the universe holds for us. And thanks to Melanie and Nolene for arranging. Looking forward to doing many more of these. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it, and have a great Thursday. It's almost Friday.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Reach out if there's any questions, or reach out to Riyan and team, and we can definitely connect and discuss further. Thank you very much.